before we talk Barca and Inter Milan, let's just touch on the game tonight. I'm sure you watched it. PSG, I thought were fantastic. Played a really good game again. They moved the ball so well, didn't they, Kev? It's lack of belief from Arsenal, wasn't there?
I thought what Paris did very, very well was take the energy out of the crowd in the first 20 minutes. I thought the way they pressed, the way they applied pressure, the goal they scored, phenomenal, the way they started the game. And I think the way back into this for Arsenal is going to be set plays, because Paris can't suddenly grow. You know, Vitinha is the height he is. João Neves is the height he is. Yeah. And I thought what was really interesting was that almost every set play that Arsenal had, the first contact was an Arsenal player.
Yeah.
You know, headers at the far post, that first touch. Marino obviously scores, but it's rightly ruled out for offside. But they struggled, I thought. And Donnarumma, I've said this before, brilliant shot stopper. I think in traffic, when the ball's around his head, he's not as dominant as he could be. And he was completely in no man's land for the goal, in inverted commas, that Marino scored. Mm-hmm. So I thought, obviously, Donnarumma has to make two brilliant saves from Martinelli and from Trossard. But Paris could have scored on the counter as well. So I don't think all is lost for Arsenal by any stretch of the imagination. Partey being back in the midfield will free up Declan Rice, because I don't think it's a coincidence that the Trossard chance comes from a driving run by Declan Rice, but he had to play a bit deeper. So they're still in it, but I do expect Paris to go through.
The wide men, I felt, were taken pretty care of. I thought Hakimi dealt with Martinelli largely. He's a quick boy. I thought Mendes on the other side, we saw how well he kept Salah quiet. He'd done something similar with Saka. How do Arsenal get in behind them if the route is not out wide? Because they really come up. I mean, the two centre-halves had a cigar on today, really, I thought.
Well, the two biggest chances, if we're looking at Martinelli's and then Trossard's, they both come from driving runs in midfield. Yeah. Like Declan Rice drives through midfield for the Trossard one. For the Martinelli one, it's Lewis Skelly. Yeah. Because Hakimi's already been booked and he doesn't want to go near him. So he manages to get past him, and it's a really cute pass into Martinelli's path. I think you're right about the wide areas. I thought Saka had a really good spell in the first half where he kind of decided to grab it by the scruff of the neck and was taking people on and making spaces, but they deliberately left Nuno Mendes back to deal with him. And I thought Kvaratskhelia got through so much work without the ball. I mean, his attitude to that kind of stuff, Luis Enrique loves him. And he's talked about this a lot, about the fact that he knew how good he was technically, but he's been surprised by the work rate and how much work he's willing to put in. So, I think they did a really good job largely of stopping the supply line to Saka, I thought.
Kev, let's talk about Barcelona versus Inter Milan. It's a huge game. Obviously, you know, Barcelona going into it, they've just won the Copa del Rey final. I watched that game. They were really good. How are they going to face up against this team, Inter Milan? Because they're a good side as well, right?
Yeah, I think Inter's quite an awkward matchup for them if Inter can get the energy levels that they normally have. And they've had quite a worrying week. They lost 1-0 at Bologna in Serie A. They were absolutely hammered 3-0 by Milan in the semi-final of the Coppa Italia, so they went out of that tournament. And then at the weekend, they lost 1-0 at home to Roma, but Roma have been absolutely flying under Claudio Ranieri. So, you know, 3 defeats, no goals in any of them. They've really missed Marcus Thuram. They're hopeful that he can play some part in at this Barcelona team, because they leave a hell of a lot of space in behind them. And I think even though Martinez isn't the quickest, he can still do damage on the counter. We saw that against Bayern. So that'll be the game plan for Inter. Soak up pressure, hit on the counter, try and do damage that way. But what we do know is if Rafinha clicks, if Lamine Yamal clicks, then you're in big trouble. They can unlock any defence. So Barca are favourites, but I do think Inter can cause them a fair few problems.
Do you see this as a bit of a high-scoring affair?
Inter will hope not, because I think Inter will hope that they can really largely contain Barcelona. I think having Denzel Dumfries back will help with that, because he'll try and lock down Rafinha to a certain extent. How you can lock down Lamine, I've no idea. I don't think anybody's quite found the answer to that yet. I mean, for a 17-year-old to be playing his 100th game for Barca, I mean, it's just beyond belief. And it's you guys will know this
17-year-old playing his 100th game?
Yeah, he's playing his 100th game for Barcelona.
It's outrageous.
And you two will know this better than me, but the thing that really stands out to me about him, it's not the skill, it's not the technique. He's got all of that. It's the decision-making. How often does he make the wrong call? Very seldom. He knows when to get rid of it. Look at the Copa del Rey final. The Pedri goal is him drawing a load of players towards him on the right-hand side of the area and cutting it back. The goal for Ferran Torres, just an unbelievable ball through to him that not many players could play. So in terms of football intelligence, he is right up there, and he's 17.
Yeah, it's crazy. 17 doing it. It's unbelievable. Just on Hansi Flick, we just heard him talking there. He's obviously loving his time at the moment. They're still on for the treble, Barcelona. They've got a good chance. I mean, they've got one in the bag. They're top of the Liga. They're probably going into this now and probably as one of the favourites in the Champions League. So he's done an unbelievable job.
He's an amazing coach. And I think he was unlucky with Germany.
Yeah.
Because if you actually look at that World Cup campaign in Qatar, they played some pretty good football, but they just fell apart at the wrong times. And they missed loads of chances across those 3 games. And even then, they're a bit unlucky to go out the way they did. So that was a bit of a blip. He's been lampooned a bit in Germany for the way the documentary portrayed him, I think. But this Barcelona team really reminds me of his Bayern team because same thing, relentless attacking, pressing, high up the pitch, like taking massive risks, but they will say, well, we don't care if you get 3, we'll get 4 or 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So that's how they play. And so there's a lot of similarities. And with that Bayern team, he won absolutely everything there was to win.
Yeah, I really like him as a coach. Kev, while I've got you, I've got to ask you, Scott McTominay at Napoli scored 2 at the weekend. He is on fire. They're top of the league. I mean, our Man United could do with him right now. He's unbelievable.
Well, he's got 5 of the last 6 goals, so it's not just that he's scoring goals.
But you went on runs like this with Man United and Scotland, I seem to remember.
Yeah. For Scotland.
Yeah.
Scotland, he's been lights out in front of goal for like 2 years.
Yeah.
He's been outstanding.
To do it at Napoli, fighting for the title and doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's like credit where it's due. Because
He's been phenomenal. He's been phenomenal. And I think Conte's recognised how best to use him.
Yeah.
And if you look at the 2 goals he scored the weekend against Torino.
Runs in the box.
They're runs in the box. Yeah. They're beautifully timed, runs into the penalty area, and he can finish. So really, really impressive. He's embraced it. He's become a really important member of that team. He's done a great job, Conte, with Lukaku as well. He seems to be the kind of Lukaku whisperer because, of course, he got the best out of him at Inter when they won the Scudetto together. They are now 3 points ahead with just a few games to go. What's really fascinating, by the way, if Inter and Napoli end up level points at the end of the season, they will play a playoff to decide who wins the league.
Why is that, Kev?
Because it's head-to-head.
Not goal difference.
And the head-to-head is level. Yeah, it's not goal difference. Not for the title. So that would be a play-out, as they would call it in Italy, a one-off game to decide.
God, that'd be brilliant. I hope that happens. Right.
The Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. Monday to Thursday nights from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.